Bonjour everyone! Hello, my name's Diane. We're going to get right into today's video on a little topic I find fascinating. It's something I call accent switching. And this accent switching happens mid-sentence, and all I mean by that is, for example, if you are speaking English, you're a native English speaker, in the middle of an English sentence, when you get to a foreign word, do you pronounce that foreign word in English? Or do you switch your accent and say it in the other language to the best of your ability? What do you do? Why do you do it? Let's talk about that with a bunch more examples right now. All right, welcome back everyone, or welcome if you're new here. As I said, my name is Diane. I'm the American behind the Living Abroad lifestyle blog, Oui In France, which I'll link down below. I talk about all kinds of things about living abroad, French language learning, French culture, that sort of thing. And here on this channel, I do everyday French life and beyond. So sometimes it's me talking to the camera like this. Sometimes I go out and about. We'll see what we get into. But for today's video, I want to talk about this accent switching, and there's a corresponding blog post that resonated a lot with my blog readers that I'll link down below if you'd like to check that out. But this is the video component, and this is exactly what I mean by accent switching. And just a note, my native language is English, I speak French, so for the purposes of my video, those are the two languages I'm referring to, but this could apply to any set of two languages, I'm sure. So what I mean is, you're saying a sentence like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm in Paris. I had 3 croissants this morning. Okay, you're a native English speaker. Maybe I'm not. You're a native English speaker and you're speaking English. Okay, what do you say? Do you say it like I just did? Or do you do something like, yeah, so I'm in Paris and I had 3 croissants this morning? Okay, what sounds better to your ear? Does that sound weird? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. But I do want to say that my rule of thumb is if you're speaking English, stick with English. And if you're speaking French, stick with the French pronunciations. That's what I kind of abide by most of the time. Yes, there are exceptions. But why is that my policy most of the time? Because for me, language is all about being understood. It's not about one-upping someone. It's not about flexing your language muscles. It's not about showing off. It's none of those things. It's about making sure you're understood. Now, sometimes you're not going to know how to pronounce a word, and you do your best. That's completely different. But I'm talking about this accent switch when you have the choice between speaking the language you're currently speaking or switching to the other language, French. And something that kind of got me on this topic, other than just hearing it around me, is this funny meme I came across on the internet. So that's real. That's real. Do you say it the way you think you should? Are you saying it in a way that sounds pretentious? I don't know, but it's a real thing. So let's get into the factors that influence how you're going to pronounce a word. At least for me, the first thing I want to know is, who am I speaking to? Am I speaking to another English speaker? Am I speaking English? Am I speaking to someone who speaks English as a second language, as a third language? And maybe the most importantly is, if you're going to accent switch, can you actually speak that other language with a degree of competency? So are you just kind of pronouncing the word like you think you should, or do you actually know that's how it's said? So I can give you an example. Sometimes people say, oh, I would never say Paris. Okay, how are you going to say it then? Oh, I say Paris because that's how it's said, Paris. It's not Paris. You don't say the S. And I'm like, well, okay, you could say Paris, but that's not actually the right pronunciation either. It's Paris. Paris. So I'm not sure if it's always best to switch into that other accent unless maybe you can speak the language with a degree of competency and you're going to be understood. So I'll give you 2 examples of when the native pronunciation has thrown me off. So for me, when I first came to France just for a 7-month stint teaching English in primary schools, the kids would be so excited to meet, their first American, and they would always ask me questions like, oh, Diane, tu as déjà visité Hollywood? Diane, tu as déjà visité Détroit? I'm like, oh my gosh, have I visited? Oh my gosh, what are they saying? And I realized that Hollywood was the French pronunciation of Hollywood, Hollywood. Détroit is Detroit with the French pronunciation. Miami, Miami. And my ear wasn't used to it. Now I know what to expect most of the time. But with my first kind of foray into the French pronunciation of English places, or American places in this case, I was completely lost. And I would say, hey, can you take this chalk and just write that on the board? I don't know what you're saying. And then I was like, ah, you idiot. Hollywood, of course. So now I perked up my ear, and they would ask me, about celebrities, Michael Jackson, maybe they even say Michael, I don't know, Robert Pattinson, who else was popular then? Just a bunch of names that I had never heard the French pronunciation, so of course I didn't pick it up at first listen, The other example is for my French husband. So he watches a bunch of American TV shows, and when characters have thrown in some French dialogue or just some French words to be fancy, like, oh, the ménage à trois, the carte blanche, oh, I live on a cul-de-sac, oh, I'm a connoisseur, oh, look at the accoutrements on the plate. He didn't even recognize them as being French words because of the English pronunciation. So in that case, if I was gonna say the same thing to my husband, I probably would accent switch on those words, or at least do it both ways. And speaking of doing something both ways, first names, people's proper names. In English, my name is Diane. Since 2012, I've been Diane. So it's Princess Diana in France. And like I said, I'm Diane. French people know the name Diane. That's how my name's pronounced. The letter I in French is I. So Diane, not Diane. And that's just how it is. So when I introduce myself in France, I'll say, oui, bonjour, je m'appelle Diane, ou en anglais, Diane. So I give them that option so they could hear how my name is pronounced by a native speaker versus how I introduce myself here. And one of my readers actually commented that's what she does when she introduces her boyfriend, whose name in English is Remy, but in French it's Rémi. Rémi, not Remy. So that's just a little bit of my thoughts into this topic. And I would love to hear your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the meme. And just one last thing. If you are going to accent switch and you don't want to sound pretentious, especially if you're speaking to another native English speaker, make sure you get the pronunciation right, or at least passable. Because I had some people tell me, so funny, oh, I would never say macaroon. Macaroons are the desserts with coconut. And then the French ones, in English, I guess you would say macaron or macaron, right? That's how you would say it in English. Those are the ones with the almond flour, the trendy desserts. And they're like, oh, I would never say macaroon. I'd always say that in French. It's not accent switching. It's just how the word is said. And I'm like, okay, go ahead. And they're like, oh yeah, so I had 3 macarons for lunch. I'm like, okay, but the word actually isn't macaron, it's macaron. So just make sure if you're gonna accent switch, you know what you're talking about. And for that reason, I kind of know what I'm talking about. I hope so, at least sometimes. But I like to just stick with the language that I'm speaking in unless there's a compelling reason to accent switch. Like I said, it's about having fun. This is not serious. I don't go around trying to flex my language muscles or one-up people because that's just not what I'm about. But I would love to hear your choices, what you've done, if you've received any pushback or feedback about your choices, or if you've ever run into what I've run into where you're not actually understanding the accent in the other language, in words in your own language, like the Hollywood situation and Michael Jackson, George Clooney. Let me know if you run into that, especially if you're another native English speaker in France. Or maybe if you're a French person and you don't understand your own French words pronounced in English. All right, everyone, that wraps up today's video. Talk to me below in the comments, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you back here real soon. Salut!